Next, I'd like to introduce District Court Judge Michael Stading, elected in 2018 as a Republican judge. He also serves in the U.S. Air Force as a JAG reservist. Judge Stading is running for the North Carolina Court of Appeals. Without further ado, if everything can stay up right here. More rocks on the front, maybe. Without further ado, I introduce Judge Michael Stading.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Michael Stading, and I actually am one of those judges that handles traffic tickets right now. So do lots of other things too. It's interesting. I actually deal with the Second Amendment on a daily basis in my current job as a district court judge. You would never think that. Even when you're elected, you don't think about that. But if you sit in a domestic violence courtroom, every single one of those forms you check has that checkbox on there to take somebody's firearm rights away. Also, we do appeals from the concealed permit office. So I'm in Mecklenburg County, so imagine how many of those I see. So every day we're dealing with those things. And so Trey, I hear you saying it's difficult to be a conservative professor in Chapel Hill, but try being a Republican judge in Mecklenburg County. That is a hard place. So anyways, greetings from behind enemy lines. Resistance is alive and well, and I'm here with barbecue, people who love firearms, and are good voters. So this is a perfect Saturday that God's given us here. As I said, I sit as a district court judge, so we look at those rights every single day. And I'm in Mecklenburg County, so there is a fight against exactly what you're standing for here. So I see that stuff every day. I'm on the front lines, and I'll tell you this, when you're among that, it strengthens your resolve as a conservative. It really, really does. I also have a part-time job. I serve in the United States Air Force, and I didn't do that until I was 35. And it was a calling. It's something I wanted to do because I wanted to show my kids what any able-bodied American can do if they have the resolve to do that. So at age 35, left 3 kids at home, went to basic training, and yeah, that's right. I hung with the young kids though. It went pretty good. Although they thought I was very old. It was strange. I'm not used to that. What I want to talk to you about is this. I'm very mindful that I'm running for Court of Appeals, so it's down the ballot. People don't really know exactly what it is. It's down with dog catcher. People wonder what it is, so I really appreciate Rich giving that explanation. If someone's traffic ticket's gotten there, you're in a bad spot. But basically, it matters, and here's why. 80 to 90% of cases that are appealed from the trial courts, they resolve themselves there. That's where they're handled. So most of those cases don't ever get to the Supreme Court. Don't get me wrong, Supreme Court is incredibly important, highest court in the land. But the constitutional rights that we talk about every day, our Second Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights, 80 to 90% of those cases are resolved at the Court of Appeals. So we got to be educated about every level of the court system, because that's something we've kind of failed to do on our side for the past few years, and we're dealing with it now. But we're going to fix it this year. This is kind of the last point I want to leave with you. It's going to sound a lot like Trey's speech. We homeschool our kids, and again, by we, I mean mostly my wife, Jenny. I get home, I get grammar, and then I get my favorite subject of all, and that's history. And I love American history. We make sure our kids learn every aspect of that Revolutionary War up to current history. And this is what I always impress upon them. We stop and we take a break when it's time to learn about the founding of our country and about the Constitution, because I think there's something a lot of judges maybe missed when they went to school, but we don't miss that in the Stading homeschool. And we tell them about the Second Amendment, and we teach our kids about what was going on at the time in our country and what the Founding Fathers would have been thinking, and more importantly, what they were schooled in, because that's the lens that we look through, and you ought to find judges that look through this lens, because that's what a conservative judge is, an originalist. So what were the Founding Fathers thinking at the time? Well, let's start with this. They were schooled in history that our kids will never see these days. They were taught about Greek history, about Roman history. They were taught about their own history, which was English history at the time, all the way back to the Punic Wars. And what they were taught is if someone was coming to take your sword or your musket or your powder, they were doing it for one reason, and that was to oppress you. And so they were fully aware of what it meant when the British were coming to get their powder, their musket balls, and their firearms. It meant oppression. A firearm has been considered a badge of liberty. It's the line between freedom and tyranny, and they understood that. Ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine where our country would be right now if our founding fathers didn't have militias and muskets, probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. Can you imagine what Ukraine would be like if the subjects there on the ground didn't have firearms? We're looking at a different situation. At least they can hold off a ground invasion for the moment. So we make sure our kids understand that. Ladies and gentlemen, again, Court of Appeals, I understand where I am on the ballot, but please educate yourselves about the judges running for that. I can't thank you enough for your involvement in this. It is so important that we get folks out here that care about these things, promote these races, get educated about them, and don't just go in there and pick a name. Pick the judge that's going to look out for your constitutional rights. I come down the road from Mint Hill. It's not that far. Happy to be here with you today. Michael Stading, North Carolina Court of Appeals. God bless you.